So in this introductory lesson, we're going to talk about the two primary control types that are used in the typical facial rig. One being direct manipulation and the other being blend shapes. So first we'll talk about the base level of deformations, which will be the joints of the character. Whether you're using direct manipulation or blend shapes, there'll typically be a layer of joint-based deformations in every face. And I guess you could technically consider joints to be a direct manipulator. So here we can see that we have, simple joints for the upper jaw here. And once again, every face will have a layer of just simple joint deformations. So now for direct manipulators, here's another level of joints here for the nostril. Some rotation and scale controls. But here on the lips, we have these controllers, which we can use to directly manipulate the lips of our character. So there's an example of direct manipulations, mainly exemplified in these lip controls. So now for indirect manipulations or blend shapes, here we have our blend shape slider window. Let's squeeze out as much room here as we can. How this works is we've modeled several targets. And these targets can each be dialed in with each of these blend shapes. We have some nostril shapes. So very quickly, those are the two basic styles of manipulating a character. One being the direct manipulators, and the other being blend shapes. You'll often see one or the other of these two methods in a face. But there is no reason that these two can't be combined in some sense or another. For example, hopefully, we'd be able to build a face where we could have some blend shapes. For instance, we wanted a blend shape here where we can get, some more dynamic motion in the nose here. And also, blend shapes will allow a team of animators to keep a character on model. So for instance, if here's a nostril pose, since we will have an art-directed target that all animators will have access to, whenever they flare the nostrils, they'll all be on model. They'll all have the same pose that they're driving their character toward with the blend shapes. Whereas if you're using direct controls, you may be able to get there, but you have more of a chance of the animation being inconsistent when you have multiple animators using the same sets of controls. They could each get there, but in very different ways, and have their own different interpretations of what the nose flare looks like. So that's one benefit of using blend shapes, is that you will have an art-directed set of targets to keep the character on model. So no matter which animators have access to this character, they'll be using the same targets. But sometimes in character animation, you want to move well beyond these linear transformations. And here we're going from one shape to the other. Whereas with direct controls, it's very easy to get very organic layered shapes. And also there are free-form deformations. So an animator can do whatever they want. They can move these however they need. These can be rotated, scaled, however an animator wants to use them. So the direct controls tend to be far more flexible, but the potential downside to that is that it may be easier to get off model, where if you're posing your character's lip into like a little up lip shape here, two different animators may give you two completely different poses for that. And that's what we mean by when we say off model. But once again, there's quite a bit of flexibility with these direct controls, so there's something to be said for that as well. So the best of both worlds would be to have direct controls that work in conjunction with blend shapes. So that way you can have a set of pre-built shapes that are art directed, that can provide very broad global motions for your character's poses. And then to have a series of direct controls that will add their deformations on top of these blend shape controls. So throughout these tutorials, we're going to go over building a full set of direct controls, going over the principles of building blend shape based controls, and then going over a very simple method of combining very simple direct controls that ride on top of blend shape deformations. So in that way you can use a blend shape, and then your direct control will follow along with the blend shape deformations, and then in a very simple way you'll be able to grab the direct controls once they've been repositioned with the blend shape, and then plus or add to the blend shape that you've created. So once again, those are the two basic deformation schemes for a face: direct controls or blend shapes. You'll often see one or the other in a character, and we're going to go over ways of very simply combining these. And once again, in a very simple way, with the direct controls being meant just as a simple method of adding to or plussing the blend shapes. So with that, let's begin with the first part of these lessons, which will be building a series of direct controls into the character's face. But first, we're going to start with the basic joint structure for the character, and then the smooth skinning.